Welcome to another Mondays Live. I am Elle Cole, and this is Mondays Live with Elle and Janice. So today we are talking about two topics. But before we get started, let me introduce myself. I am Elle Cole from the blog cleverlychanging.com. I am a mom of twin daughters, and my blog talks about finance, health, and wellness, and also homeschooling and parenting. I invite you to visit my site, go to the top tab that says podcast, and listen to my educational podcast. Today, I would love for you to hear from author and historian Janice Adams. Let everybody know who you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm Janice Adams. I am my website, janiceadams.com, where we really look at history and healing. That's what the need is right now. And so I am an author, historian. I also publish the Backpacks Kids series, which is really important today with today's topic. So we'll get into that shortly. And I wish you a happy Monday.
Yes, happy Monday, everybody. Today is a beautiful Monday, but yesterday was International Day of the Girl. And I don't know, that just makes me so excited because, of course, I was once a little girl and I have two little girls. And you also had
two little girls. And now I have two little grandgirls. So it is our day and a great opportunity to celebrate. Yes, it was yesterday, but I'm sure your girls and mine will insist that it's every day. So here we go.
Yes, yes. And one thing I would like to highlight about that is right now we are all living through a pandemic and it's lasting much longer than all of us would have imagined. And the population that is really being affected by this is women. So women, because we are mothers and sometimes those traditional roles mean that we are the caregivers for the home and we also teach the children. And so many of us are wearing multiple hats, trying to make it work. And there is a statistic that I would like to share, and this comes from the UN.org, and it says that by 2021, around 435 million women and girls will be living on less than $1.90 a day, including 47 million pushed into poverty as a result of COVID-19. So unfortunately, there are some people who have made it seem like COVID-19 is not a big deal, but it is. And it is very important for women not to go trillion steps back. It's like, we have progressed so much, and it's very sad to hear that statistic that, COVID-19 could really push women all over the world back. And so that's one of the things that we want to talk about today.
Yes, and and it's important when we give numbers like that. Would you say the exact number again that's being projected for 2021?
435 million women and girls will be living on less than $1.90 a day. In addition, 47 million will be pushed into poverty as a result of COVID-19.
Well, I'm looking at that 435 million number because, as has been said, women are half the sky. We are half the world. So when you start talking about that magnitude, that number of women and girls, you are talking about a sea change in the well-being of everyone, because those women are mothers of sons. They are wives of husbands who obviously are not earning as they should be either if those women are in that position. So it is absolutely imperative that we get the magnitude of it. That said, on this day, it is also imperative that we celebrate who we are, that we celebrate possibility and opportunity and our potential to be the change that we want, to put those people into powerful positions, not because they think they belong there, but because we have vetted them sufficiently for them to be there. But here's to our girls. Io and Dara on my end.
Yes, and my girls are Layla and Maya, my two wonderful girls. And I just, when I hear and I think about their future, I want us to just talk about a couple things that girls can do to make a difference for their future. Because what we're looking at right now is we don't want our children to go backwards. We don't want their future not to be as bright as it can. And so one of the things that I grew up with is just the constant push for getting your education. And I think that's something that I want to talk about right now, where, education is so important. And right now, schools aren't open as they were in the past. And so many families are doing virtual learning or remote learning. And that has its own challenges. In past conversations, we've talked about the digital divide, which does affect women. We talked about, the digital divide isn't only the connectivity that we talked about, but it's also some families don't have enough devices. And when it comes to girls, what can we do to ensure that girls are given an equal opportunity as far as their education is concerned? And one thing that kind of strikes me about this is that we are in America. And in the past, we looked at it as a problem in developing countries where girls weren't treated equally and have given the same opportunity as boys. But what we've learned through this pandemic is that girls here in America are often facing troubles that they shouldn't be facing as far as education is concerned. So can you kind of maybe share what can we do? Because I know that you're big on education. You received an excellent education. So what do you think we can do to ensure that girls and boys get a great education?
Well, first, I want to also mention my granddaughters' names because I didn't before I said my twin daughters' names, Io and Dara. My granddaughters are Maximico, Maxe, Samiko, and Sky, Sophia. And Sky is the same age as your twin daughters. But I think about this issue of education, especially with them, because they are in that age group. And both have had serious educations that are now being really, even with them having every possible device that you could think of, the widest possible bandwidth, their educations are still being put in jeopardy by COVID. In the case of my granddaughter, who is 18, about to turn 19, this past year was her first year of college. And as she started out just so excited and everything, within months she was home. And they thought she was going to be back in school for the fall, at least for a couple of months. And at the last month, because of the COVID spikes, they had to cancel even that. And that's at one of our top national universities in Washington, D.C. My other granddaughter, who's 11, she is in the New York City public schools. And each day there is announcement, maybe so, maybe not, maybe so, maybe not. her mother has been fortunate to be able to be with a kind of a pod, as they're calling them, of parents that are bringing their kids together almost in a homeschool kind of situation with a teacher who they are using as a tutor. I am absolutely mindful that that is a matter of privilege, that they are, even the granddaughter who is home from college is not out of school. She is back virtually going to college. So it is, but still the part of their growth and adjustment. I think one of the things that we try to make sure with their growth and adjustment is that they are very mindful of the privilege that they do have, that in the midst of this, they're both very thoughtful young ladies. That's not the issue, but still to understand when it's you're getting depressed about because where you are right now, to put it in that kind of perspective. In terms of what we are going to do for our girls and boys who do not have the resources that they need. Frankly, I think it's going to be a matter of some of the things that we've been doing all along. We've been doing it on the internet, but so many children all over this country don't have internet service. CBS Sunday Morning did a piece a couple of weeks ago about children that you would never think not having internet. To be blunt about America's racial situation, white children in Maine, the whole state of Maine, is under-resourced in terms of broadband. And it has made a real difference. So honestly, I think that what's going to have to happen is it's going to be phone calls that we make to each other to buck up, to, inspire and inform as best we can. And then I think it's going to have to be a serious reckoning with the fact that this country has a horrible record on its treatment of COVID, to deal with it, to do everything that we're told to do for like the next 2 months, whatever it is time that it's going to take to bring these numbers down, and then to be hands-on in terms of doing whatever we can to help those kids who've lost so much recover. It's going to have to be a concerted, hands-on effort by all concerned to help those kids recover what they've lost in this period. We are just not prepared for it. We're not. I wish we were. Even I publish a series of books and audios and board games and everything else. But frankly, if you are not these days on the internet, how do you find out about it?
Right.
Now, you can find out by going to my website, janiceadams.com. You'll see Backpacks Kids. But if you're not, how do people find out about it? And that's why we're going to have to be so hands-on.
Yes, yes. So I want to say, if you are joining us, please, in the comment section, let us know where you're joining us from, and we would love to interact with you. Also, if you are watching the replay, put the word replay in the comment section so that we'll know that you're watching. So what you just mentioned, I think, is very important. And I want to say, if parents are interested in a pod and they cannot afford it, you can still contact that organization that creates pods. Google your area, find out an organization that creates pods in your area, because they may have a scholarship available. You never know if you don't ask, but you do have to be very proactive. And what I find is, for people who are working 2 and 3 jobs, often, just to make ends meet, they may not have time, but maybe, contact a friend or something like that to do the research for you. But there are scholarships and things like that available in different areas. You just kind of have to seek out. Yes.
Yeah, I also think that this may be a creative opportunity for our student teachers who are still in school, to give them some of the experience that they would not otherwise be getting, and give them something they would not require a professional teacher's salary as a as a teacher tutor during this time. But it may be an opportunity to do something like that, or even a young person who isn't involved in education, because the sense of self for both the older children who are able to give something to the younger children, and the younger children who are looking up to the older children, is going to be something else that all of our kids need, and that is irreplaceable. So I think that this is, it is such a difficult time because the schools are closed, the libraries are closed, the churches are closed, many of the museums are closed, so many of the resources that we would have looked forward to. But I think it's going to be each one reach one, neighbor to neighbor, and empowering a young person who may be grieving the fact that they're out of work may be the perfect empowerment to guide little ones who are out of school. So it's just a thought.
I think that's an excellent thought. And what I also know that they're doing in many areas, because a lot of areas do have TV connection. And so I know in my area, K through 5, you can actually find real classes that are being taught on TV. You can turn to your local station and tune into a class. So I think
Public television,
yes,
public television during the daytime has been and is doing a wonderful job. And also, if you are privy to internet, public television has amazing courses online for
yes,
young people.
yes. So for people that can tap into that resource, it's really a time for us to come together and be a village. So if we know of resources, we have to share those resources. You know, people who need food, there there is food that is available. I don't necessarily know because every single state has a different mandate.
Every locality has a
Right,
different
every county is
structure.
different.
Yeah.
But contact your local officials. You can write them. If there are resources that you need, contact them and let them know. Let the social services in your area know that you need these resources, because I assure you there are different agencies that are receiving federal dollars to give resources to the community. It's just that some people, the word isn't out there. So you don't know that these resources exist, but they do. So contact your local government offices, like your Department of Social Services, contact your local governor, your local mayor. These people work for you. So use them, get them to help you with those resources.
Yeah, I'm a city person who's been living upstate during COVID, and it's brought me into a whole new world that I would not have known. Like, for example, that there are farmers who a friend of mine is a farmer, and they do these so-called mixed bags that you order for your groceries on Sunday and you pick up on Thursday. But the reason that I'm mentioning it is because many of the farmers are also bringing their surpluses to food banks, and this is one of those that is. So, and they're bringing fresh produce weekly to the food bank. So when we support them by buying directly from the farmers are then supporting us by bring the surplus food for people who otherwise couldn't afford it. So not everybody is in an area like that, but if you're in a serious urban area or a semi-rural area, you're going to have local small and larger farmers who are doing these kinds of things, and reaching out to them also keeps them going. We have to think about this wheel with all, well, what is it? Let the circle be unbroken.
Yes. And speaking of that circle, one thing that people should keep in mind, definitely look into your local farmers, because often they often supply big organizations and companies that are not, they no longer have employees on their premises.
Yeah.
So there are a variety of ways that, seeking out, finding who those farmers are, because if they no longer have to supply restaurants that, so in my area, a lot of places are still closed. People are still working from home.
Mhm.
And so it's important to find out where those resources are, because they grew the food. They didn't know COVID was going to happen.
Nobody thought COVID, when they were planting this spring, they did not think that uh, COVID would be as strong as it is at the time of harvest. So, and here we are.
Yes.
So each one reach one.
Yes. So I just want to say, about International Day of the Girl, as we close that topic out, that, this is a time where we also have to be very mindful of things like Me Too, things like just physical and different
Spousal
abuse
abuse,
against
child
girls.
abuse.
Yeah, child abuse. And so it's really a time for us as a community to come together and support that community. If you see something that is wrong, you have to speak up. And we don't want our children to be harmed. This is just so important, because we're just in a vulnerable time. We are a progressive nation, but it really, is difficult to see what is happening right now, because we're not as progressive as we thought we were.
Well, the truth of the matter is that even I didn't know you were going to refer to that, but there is a group, an organization called RAINN, RAINN.org, that does statistics on physical abuse, on sexual abuse, and the even in the best of times, the United States has horrific statistics on sexual assault, on incest and rape. It is not what you think it is, and that's when we're not in COVID. And now, while just as human beings being under this extraordinary stress, people who are in trouble mentally, so that they are doing these kinds of things in the best of times, are even more vulnerable and therefore more dangerous in these difficult times. And so I'm glad you raised that, um, because this is no time, just the way it is no time to bury our head in the sand on COVID, it is no time to bury our head in the sand on the vulnerabilities of our girls and our boys, especially where this terrible situation of abuse is concerned. It is unfortunately right now rampant.
Right. So that was really what I wanted to share about International Day of Girls. If you want
Yes.
to learn more, go to un.org. They have a lot of information about the background of the day. It's been in establishment since 2011. And, we just often think of it as a third world problem, but it's a worldwide issue.
It's a human issue. It's a human condition, and we have to look at it that way.
Yes, yes. Now, was there, before we close out,
Yes.
we have
Well,
yes.
Another day that we really can't forget is that as of roughly 2017, more and more cities and states are recognizing today not so much as Columbus Day, but more importantly as Indigenous Peoples Day or First Nations Day. And that is imperative, especially it's a wonderful thing to finally be able to get the information that we need and to share the legacy. You know, one of the things you mentioned, the UN, and I was looking at UN heritage sites and was amazed to discover that there are more UN declared heritage sites in Mexico than any place else in North America. We are talking about civilizations that not only go back, you know, millennia, but that are still operating today. We don't talk about them. Many of the people are in desperate situations because of the racism and because of the, let's face it, the conquest and the genocide that it took to create the European-led countries, nations of North and South America. We have to be upfront about that. But those people are still the people who inherited this amazing legacy. I just want to say quickly that when I was developing my Backpacks Kids series, backpackskids.com, which you can find just with a click at janiceadams.com. People always ask me, well, what's your most so-called multicultural title? And I would say, well, if you tell the truth, the world is multicultural. That's the way it was made. And of the titles, I would point to Journey to the Moon and Beyond, because it is a perfect segue from what we're talking about with First Peoples Day. On the cover of that, the original cover of that title, without the Native Americans, without the Asian Americans, without Africans, without women, nobody would be blasting off anywhere. When we talk about the journey to the moon, Chinese discovered fireworks. That's the first harnessing of implosion. Native Americans had these amazing sites that still exist that we now know, like Machu Picchu, were actually observatories. Africans, what they were doing in terms of early astronomy, and including a tiny star called Sirius B. So women, Day of the Girl, and that's why I'm mentioning it, wrapping it up. Without people the world over, we would not be benefiting from the lives and the inventions and the resources that are available to us now. So as we go out celebrating the International Day of the Girl Child and Indigenous Peoples Day, that's a reminder of how everyone, despite the stories that we're told that limit it only to one group of people, that is not true. The truth is that we are all part of this world and we have all been significant to it. And we must celebrate us all.
Yes, yes. So that's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
Happy Monday to you. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. And so we would love for you to let us know if you have show topics that you would like for us to cover. And also be sure to tune in next week at the same time.
Yes. And absolutely. And have a good International Day of the Child and Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yes.
Bye now.
Bye.